All right, here we go. Salute to NBA Nation on this Wednesday afternoon. Another edition of the NBA Report, episode 5. On today's show, we're going to preview the Heat versus Nuggets Game 3 matchup, NBA Finals tonight. Series tied at 1 apiece, man. We're going to give you our keys for each team. Plus, finals ratings are in, and it is shocking the NBA world, man. We're going to talk about that, talk about the draw and the appeal of these two teams. Frank Vogel met with the media in his introductory press conference with the Phoenix Suns. We're going to talk a little bit about what kind of work they got cut out for them this offseason, man. Plus, Dame Dollars talking trades. He's got some interesting teams on his list, man. So let's lock in. Call us up, 657-383-1509. Let's get to it, man. I'm liking this beat each and every episode, man. It's fire, right?
I like this beat a lot, man.
Yeah. I like it. I like it. Get you into the groove.
Gets you in the groove.
Yeah.
It gets you in the groove. It's like a nice, it's got, I don't know what it is. I don't know how to describe it. I'm not like that big of a music head where I can talk about levels and everything, but there's just like a catchy chime to it where it's just like, gets you ready just to talk about general NBA, you know? Switches it up from what we do over at Knicks Fan TV.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. How you feeling, man? Are you smelling the smoke over in Boston? Because it's a forest fire down here in New York, bro.
Yes. It is not as bad as New York, but I opened my windows today. I got a huge whiff, and I was like, is this just cutting trees from the neighbor next door? And it was that. And it's still sticking around here, but it's not too great. Not as bad as New York, though, which is that. So the air quality it's moderate around here, but still got to keep these windows closed. How are you doing though? How are you surviving in New York?
Yeah, I was in the house for most of the day yesterday, just grinding. But then when I stepped out to go to the gym, I was like, whoa! I thought it was like nearby, but then because I kind of was in and out of the TV with the news, so I didn't really know exactly what was going on. I just saw bits and pieces and radar maps and read all over the place, but it's just interesting and crazy actually to see that that's the effects coming all the way from our friends up north above the border. So hopefully they get that under control because it's kind of toxic out here right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully they can get it under control. Everyone who's in the New York tri-state area, if you're being affected by this, we got our own guy Gamba who's getting the smoke down in Virginia. Make sure to stay safe.
Yeah.
All right, stay indoors, especially if you got if you got asthma or anything like that. Hope everyone stays safe. Make sure to be on the lookout and check the news frequently, especially for the weather.
True indeed, man. So let's talk finals. Game 3, Heat smacked fire out of those Nuggets, man. Gave them a rude awakening after Game 2, winning by 3 points, 111-108. The Heat, once again, their role players stepping it up, man, just getting contributions across the board from Duncan Robinson, Gabe Vincent, Max Strus clapping back, Jimmy having his moments, Bam being great. And for the Nuggets, some soul searching as they head into Miami tonight to try to take a 2-1 lead in the series, man. Let's look at it let's start with Denver, man. Like where do you see them needing to adjust to get back into this thing?
What they need to do is figure out how to get all their role players back open so that Jokic can find them and make life easy for the rest of the team, right?
Yeah.
We know he can drop 41 points. We saw that in Game 2. But I think you're going to need some more off-ball movement from these guys, a lot more cutting, just cutting baseline, attacking the rim. Just ways to get them more involved early so that way they can get into rhythm, and then it opens things up for not only Jokic, but Murray as well. I think that's number one. Number two, defensively, I think they just got to stay home on everybody, man. You can't really, I know everyone's thinking about just watch out for Jimmy. Jimmy hasn't been the Jimmy that we're seeing at the level from Milwaukee. So offensively, I think you could just stay home, like what we didn't see when we were covering the Knicks. But I think you got to stay home on everybody, just because if you're going to have guys like Gabe Vincent, you're going to have Duncan Robinson shooting well. You can't allow those guys to get into rhythm. You got to force everything for what the Heat did to Denver, make Jokic the sole option. They're going to have to do the same thing for Jimmy.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think it starts definitely on the defensive end. I thought they got, despite the fact that a lot was made of the whole Jokic not being a facilitator as much as and made him a scorer, I thought they did get enough offense. The Game 2 to me was their defensive lapses, both on the effort side when you look at guys like a Michael Porter, and also just uncharacteristically boneheaded plays from guys like a KCP. They weren't connected on those Heat pick and rolls, and the Heat were slicing them up and getting wide open threes off of that. So they've got to stay more connected defensively, communicate a little bit better, find ways to communicate, because one of the things Michael Porter Jr. was saying was that every time they did call out, whether to switch or not to switch, Miami was running a counter. And so and so that's that cat and mouse chess game that's very interesting out there on the court, that we don't necessarily see until we hear from those players. So I thought that was interesting insight from Porter Jr., just how difficult it was to execute defensively against the Heat, because they kept countering every time the Nuggets were making their move. And that's what we saw out there on the tape. So they've got to do a better job of trying to disrupt this Heat team from three, because, that's really what's been carrying this Heat team, man. Their prowess from downtown is really what's allowed them to hang tight in these games and ultimately win a lot of these games. Outside of the Knicks series, from the Bucks series, the Celtics series, and now the Denver series, they're over 40% from three. They only shot 32% or something like that against the Knicks, but they were able to win because the Knicks were even worse from three. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like they didn't need to be necessarily a high octane offense, because the Knicks were struggling offensively themselves. But against Milwaukee, where they needed to, because of Milwaukee's advantages, Boston's advantages, especially their advantages from three, and Denver being a high octane offense themselves, Miami needs that 3-point pace to stay in it. But for Denver, they're gonna have to try to limit that. They're gonna have to try to limit them from three. Offensively, their ball movement has to be better. Their ball movement and body movement definitely has to be better. It just wasn't there in game two, especially when Jokic was making his moves. You saw a lot of ball watching, a lot of standing around. Those guys themselves admitted that they need to get back active on the offensive end. Murray had said that in his post-game press conferences. I think KCP as well. So they've got to continue to move the ball. And then I think, as you said, from a supporting cast standpoint, I look at not squarely because everybody's involved, but Michael Porter Jr. I think Porter Jr. has to come alive again and be that true tertiary option, that outlet for Jokic, that outlet for Murray, in order for them to be effective. KCP as well. And one of the interesting things was that we hear this a lot from coaches and players, and even Barkley had mentioned it on the TNT broadcast after Game 2, was that it seemed like at times, especially with the role players, that their offensive inefficiency led to their lapses on the defense, and they look at Michael Porter Jr. in that regard. And it's just interesting that we always hear that from coaches and some players, that psychology of the game, where if your shots aren't falling, it affects you on the defensive end. So let's see if that's a trend going into Game 3, or if they're able to correct that going into this one.
Yeah, and I think, if you're trying to get into the mind of like a player, it's that this game is predicated on scoring, right? Like defense is part of the game, but the whole point is, how can you outscore the other opponent, right? Who has the most points to finish the game? And for a guy like Michael Porter Jr., who's an offensively gifted talent, right? If that's his game, and his game is not coming to fruition as he's so used to seeing, whether it's throughout his college career and so forth, yeah, I can see why he's struggling on the defensive end. But sticking with what the Nuggets need to do, man, like we've seen Michael Porter Jr. be that guy who can cut off ball, he can knock down threes, he can even be at times, for a part, I think it was like 2 seasons ago, when he was coming off the bench, coming back from an injury, he can be that type of guy who can score, create for himself. And I think for the Nuggets, they may have to give him a little bit more leeway, even with the second unit, just to get him into rhythm if you're looking for him to be that guy. Sometimes players just need a little bit more of a runway to feel like they're being utilized properly, get into a rhythm. We've seen that, whether we cover the Knicks, whether it's like RJ running with the second unit just to get him going, right? Mm-hmm. And I think for Michael Porter Jr., we've seen a lot of Murray and Jokic being those catalysts for the second unit, and sometimes Porter Jr. is off on the bench waiting to come back in. And you see like what we saw was we got Brown, Murray, KCP, and Gordon out there. I think Malone might have to give MPJ that little bit of leeway to give him that confidence in order for him to be that contributor that we're so used to him being throughout the regular season. Otherwise, if he's going to struggle like this, it's going to be a long series for the Denver Nuggets because you can't just rely on two guys, as we talked about. And you definitely got to figure out how to get KCP involved because you need that three-point shooting to open up for everyone else. Gordon's a guy who likes to cut. Michael Porter Jr. could be a shooter, but he's also a guy who can drive and finish around the rim as well. Jokic, we already know where he likes to operate. Jamal Murray, three-level threat. But when you get someone like KCP knocking down threes, he's been shooting close to 40%. I believe he's actually shooting 40% this postseason. You need that to continue. And he's a high-volume efficiency scorer. We saw what he did against the Los Angeles Lakers. He's another key component to what they do. So you're going to need MPJ to get into that offensive groove that we're used to him seeing. And for KCP, he needs to start knocking down threes. You can't have him go 1 for 3 as they did in game 2 because now you're just shrinking the court, right? Now you're giving Miami, now you're playing to Miami's hands where, all right, if we just have to focus in on Jokic and everyone trying to attack the paint, we know how successful Miami can be at that, especially when they go to their zone, whether it's a 2-2-1, a 2-3 zone. You see how they can just stop everybody and force them to make difficult shots. They got to figure out how to knock down threes to open it back up and to force Miami to do something else other than the zone.
Yeah, true indeed, man. In this game, Caldwell Pope 1 for 3, Michael Porter Jr. 1 for 6. So yeah, 2 for 9 from two of your better 3-point shooters. Bruce Brown also a capable 3-point shooter, only 1 for 3 in this one. Jamal Murray 3 for 8. So they certainly will need a little bit more there from their supporting cast. And for Porter Jr., 6 boards in this game. He's a guy, he's a high rebound guy. He should be able to get that up. He's got to get a little bit more aggressive out there. And also, the Jamal Murray, Jimmy Butler switch that Eric Spoelstra deployed in game 2 seemed to have a positive impact for Miami. That could be. I mean, it's only game 3 coming up, but I want to see that matchup tonight to see how. If Spoelstra goes that route again, I would have to think you would go with the same lineup. Kevin Love starting, him being on Gordon. Then you have Butler on Murray. And then I want to see how Denver counters that. Do they run more actions for Jamal Murray? Do they run Jimmy Butler through some more actions to either try to get him tired or to get Jamal Murray off of him? Or to get him off of Jamal Murray, rather, so that you could try to get maybe him back on a Gabe Vincent or Gabe Vincent back on a Murray or, one of the Heat's lesser defenders. It's going to be interesting to see because, and then the counter to that is because you have Bam on Jokic, if you got Jimmy on Murray, you can't even run a 1-5 pick and roll as much because then you get Bam out there on Murray and a good defender in his own right on the switches and in the pick and roll. I think that whole matchup is going to be fascinating to watch, especially in game 3.
It's interesting, man, because we talked about it, especially on the last show with Chuck D. Shout out to the Rhyme Animal, Chuck D. Where you see, You see how Miami's able to go and utilize their depth, right? Whether it's Kyle Lowry, Jimmy Butler, Caleb Martin, Gabe Vincent, like they have multiple ball handlers out there. And I know you have Jokic, you have Murray. Those are your top 2 guys who initiate the offense. But I'm wondering if you're Mike Malone, do you go to someone like Reggie Jackson, who's known to be like lightning in a bottle at times, to figure out, okay, if we're going to see Butler on Murray, do we need to get another ball handler out there that can score? And I know Reggie's been up and down this season, but maybe this is the time where you start saying, we got to be a little bit creative. We're going with Bruce Brown, another guy who can do a little bit. He can do a little bit of initiating, not a lot, but maybe you go to someone like Reggie. That's why you traded for him, for you got from the Clippers. Maybe you go back to your bench and say, all right, Reggie, let's see what we can get from you today. Because if you're getting this from Kyle Lowry, right, off the bench, not saying that Reggie's going to match the same thing, but you're going to have to fight fire with fire and say, we need to figure out a way to get Jamal Murray open. Maybe you move him a little bit off guard, force Reggie to be a little bit of that creator for a little bit and see what happens. Just got to experiment, man. Yeah. This is what the Warriors did when they played Cleveland the first time in the series. Draymond, after David Lee went down, Draymond took that role. You get David Lee coming back in, and it's like, oh, wait a minute. We got a guy who can score and facilitate a little bit better because David Lee, much better scorer than Draymond. Sometimes you got to look to somebody who offers a different dimension that you don't have. So I know Malone wants to stick to 7 to 8 guys on this roster. Maybe you got to go to 9 a little bit. Maybe you got to see an experiment during the playoffs. You're fighting for your lives here I know it's game 3. I know it seems a little crazy to be saying you're fighting for your lives, but look, Miami's using their depth. You got to see if you can go to yours as well and keep them on their toes.
Yeah, true indeed, man. Salute to everybody in the chat. Once again, hit that thumbs up button for you boys. The NBA report live and direct on this matinee Wednesday afternoon. CP the franchise, Alex Shotaro. Salute to everybody watching on the NBA report side. We got JJ from Brooklyn in here. King Cantona 14. We got Gotcha Open Gamba in here. Salute. Who else? We got Dirty Money D5 says, respect what y'all doing. Let's get this money. Let's go. And for those of you that are watching on the Knicks Fan TV side, I just dropped a link to the NBA report. Come over to the NBA report right now. And subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, hit that share button. Obviously, we're trying to get it out the mud. So we're trying to get our Knicks Fan TV supporters over on this side so we could get some momentum on the show, man. But great show so far. We are previewing the Game 3 of the Heat versus Nuggets NBA Finals. And, in this matchup, we talked about Miami's three-point prowess, Jimmy Butler. It's just so interesting just how they've gotten here on the strength of the three. Outside of, that 56-point game against the Bucks, like after that game 1 against the Knicks, he's been good. Right? Put some respect on his name. We're going to put some respect on his name. He's been good, but it hasn't been, everybody's waiting on that playoff Jimmy. But he's just been trusting his teammates, taking what the defense gives him. He'll assert himself when he needs to, not forcing the issue, and he's sticking true to that. Give him a lot of credit. I mean, he's averaging 17 points per game in this series, but only on close to 40% shooting from the field. Hasn't been anything great, but it's been Gabe Vincent could be the MVP of this thing if Miami wins the chip. Think about that. It's been Gabe Vincent. Strus has had his moments. Duncan Robinson has been killing it. Bam has been playing on a consistent level for the most part, especially in this series. So far in 2 games, I think he's been great, especially offensively for them. So it's just interesting to see, if their threes don't fall in this game or in this series, again, that balance. Will we see him assert himself a little bit more? Because if they're not hitting their threes, he can't. You can't have these 14-point games, these 17-point games, if your supporting cast isn't coming through.
Yeah. And for Jimmy, right, like, it's just interesting how this whole playoff Jimmy mantra has been going on, and we haven't really seen that. And I don't know if it's maybe it's the ankle injury, although I won't say that from against the Knicks, because he did show up against Boston. All right, he did drop 30 when needed. I feel like Jimmy has just been conserving himself for when it's needed most, because he's getting the support that he needs from everybody else. And I think he looks as like, even when people talk about LeBron, who is constantly known for making the right basketball play, but not necessarily being that killer that we saw in like Kobe or MJ, right?
Yeah.
When you watch Jimmy, it's like if he's watching Gabe Vincent, Max Strus, Caleb Martin, Duncan Robinson all getting into rhythm, I think his thought process is, why would I want to impact that when I need the support of them to win anyway? He's like, I think his mindset is, I can't win by myself. My teammates have to play well too. So if it requires me to take less shots so that way they can get into rhythm, and you have to honor everybody instead of just honing in on me and then the rest of his teammates trying to figure out how to get their shots, I think he's going to live with that. And I think he's more happy with, hey, I'll get 23 points. I'll get you the rebounds. I'll get you the assists. I'll be that guy instead, just a facilitator and playmaker when needed, instead of having to have that command where I'm going to take over. Just watch me. I'm going to, beat everybody by myself, because we've seen that's not how you really win championships. It's got to be a complete team effort. So I think even though we kind of as like NBA fans want to see that, I think for him mentally, it's like, I'm not going to play that game. I'm going to play to let's have a good, solid team effort overall.
And it's been working. Right? If it ain't broke, don't fix it, man. It's been working. And the way that they've been getting that supporting cast involved and all those guys stepping up, it's a very interesting storyline when you see that, you could, if this team wins it, it could truly be like a number of factors, coaching being at the top, Spoelstra being at the top. Then maybe the role players. You could have a Vincent winning the MVP, and then it's almost like Jimmy Butler is kind of like that third component. So it's very interesting, man. We haven't seen that in a long time, in a really long time.
For sure. And Spoelstra, I think, at the end of next season, up for a contract extension.
Yeah,
and
they're saying 20
projecting
mil.
20 million.
20 mil. 20 mil. Back up the Brinks truck. Wow.
And for a guy who's never won Coach of the Year, right? And he did this with Miami with Jimmy Butler, not once but twice, taking them to the finals.
Yeah.
Right. This is where I kind of side tangent. This is kind of where I look at awards and I'm like, like who gets it? Who gets it? I treat it as like it's good for personal recognition, but it's not the end all be all because you look at someone like let's just go to Tips, right? Just because we cover the Knicks. Like he's gotten Coach of the Year twice,
right?
And deservingly so, right? From what he's done with the Bulls and what he's done with the Knicks. But then when you look at someone like Spoelstra and you look at this team, and you're like, wow, you got Caleb Martin playing above his pay grade. The Charlotte Hornets, let him go, and you're like, this guy, this guy, like, and you think about all the scouts that have overlooked him, right? Phone call away, we keep saying. You got to give that to coaching too for him to buy in and to appreciate and to accept that role.
Yeah. I think the coaching awards, obviously it's a regular season award, but so much changes in the regular season. You have some teams, like think about the championship teams that come back into a regular season. Are they really going at that level? Are they coasting? Are they doing load management? I mean, this Heat team even admitted, Jimmy Butler even admitted that, they weren't really going through the regular season at a intense pace, like as you would think a Tibbs team, right? A Tibbs team every day you're expected, you got to go hard, go in. But for some of those veteran teams, and so I say that to say, the coaching award, it's just about that team that's maybe their improvement year over year, the team that's playing the best. But as you see in the postseason, it could all change, and Spoelstra right now is showing that he's at the top of the sport, no question about it. Now, Tyler Hero, the story also of Game 3, will not play. Tyler Hero will not play again in this one, man. He's out with he's trying to recover from the hand. According to Eric Spoelstra, he has not yet been cleared, but he is doing some drills. He is participating in team practices. According to Eric Spoelstra, he is he's looking good. They are encouraged. But this was from Roz Gold on Woo Day on Monday, and this was from Game 2 when she spoke to Tyler Hero. She said that he said Hero experiences both soreness and swelling in the right hand after shooting and can feel the soreness when he's making a follow-through shooting motion. He also shared his consideration not wanting to come back and mess up the rhythm of the team. While there was some hope he returned from Game 2, as he's participating in all-team practice, he's making sure the time is right to return to the court. It's an interesting dilemma that they have, right? It's 1-1. You're now going into Game 3, feeling good about yourselves, feeling like if we play our game, we have a chance. And now you have a scorer on your bench, ice cold, hasn't played competitively in months, right? Well, he heard it in the Bucks series. So what was that? April? Yeah, say it was a couple months, 2 months roughly. Hasn't played in roughly 2 months. Rust, rhythm. How does that all play out? I mean, Brady Hawk of 5 on Sports came on, thought that they would bring Hero off the bench. But I'm not so sure that as the series drags on, I think the chances of him playing become less and less. What do you think?
Mean, if he's not coming back today, I don't see it. There's 2 ways that I'm thinking of this. One, I think Spoelstra's so confident in this group based on how far they've come without him that he's saying, all right, we're in these games. We're, losing Game 1. All right, we were there. We won Game 2. Obviously, we're there. We probably don't need Hero right now. No need to rush him back and to potentially throw off the rhythm. So why not just stay with this core group who's been successful and let's keep it rolling. Now, I could see Hero coming back because, yeah, you hear this, like saying that he's comfortable and stuff like that. The coach is not going to say he's healthy. We're holding him out because we don't want to ruin the flow. That's like the worst thing you can say. That's the worst thing you could say because then you're saying you don't have confidence in your player who's ready to play, who's been a big part of your success this season, who helped you, right, get you past the play-in. So the team's not going to say anything like that. They're going to make sure that it's like he's working. What does the team doctors think? Maybe even something internally where it's like team doctors, let's just say like we're still trying to do this, still trying to test him out, see how he really feels, but let's be cautious so that way we still have him for the future. And we're not trying to get him ready and get him mentally prepared to come back when we got something cooking right now. So I think that's part of the reason why we're not seeing that, but there's no reason to rush him back. Look, you just won without him. You've been winning without him.
Right. And
I really do believe throwing a player back in at this point, you could throw off the entire rhythm of the team. And I think you got to be careful about that. No matter, like, for Tyler Hero, it's not like we're talking about anyone of like LeBron James's caliber or Dwayne Wade, anything of that nature, where you really need him to compete. We're seeing that you don't really need him to compete, which is why on the last show I'm like, what do you do with Tyler Hero this offseason, which, we're going to talk about Dame later in the show.
Yeah.
So I say you still keep him on the sideline until things get to the point where it's like, we desperately need him. We need some jolt, because there could be a case where Duncan Robinson doesn't shoot well anymore. Caleb Martin is just ineffective, right? Gabe Vincent just loses everything that he's been doing this entire postseason. And then you could say, all right, now we go to, now we break the glass in case of emergency. We bring Tyler Hero back in. But as of right now, you just keep it chugging with what you got.
Yeah, that's what I think, man. I agree with you there. So what do you think for tonight, man? Give me your finals prediction, man. What do you think? Miami at home's Wednesday, back in the 305. Haven't been home in quite some time. What do you think, man? What do you guys think in the chat? Give me your game predictions for tonight.
This is tough. I don't know if this is the Knicks fan in me that just doesn't want to see the Heat win.
Heat haters unite. I'm with you, bro. This is a safe space for you, man.
I could see where Miami does win because they have that edge, right? They just won game 2 in Denver.
Yeah.
Denver was undefeated at home this postseason. Miami broke that in game 2. They're home. They get some momentum. I could see them saying, you know what? We're on our home turf now. We're going to show them why you still got to fear us. On the other hand, I can also talk myself into Denver needs to punch back. They need to show some fight. And we can't forget how good this Denver Nuggets team has been, okay? Throughout their entire playoff series. Look, they defeated the Suns with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. Sure, watered down team with dealing with some injuries, didn't have Chris Paul, but still the way that they were just able to attack Phoenix in all facets of the game was very impressive because they just looked like a machine. How they were able to compete with the Lakers, who was a really good team after all their midseason acquisitions and changes. But I'm going to go with Denver. I'm going to go with Denver tonight because I think this is going to be a competitive series. Yeah. I think Malone, after his last post-game conference, if the team doesn't respond to that for the sense of urgency, then there's a problem. If they lose tonight, it's hard to have confidence that this team could win the series. They may win another game, but to win the series, you start to lose some confidence.
Yeah, true story. True indeed, man. I'm going with Denver with a bounce back, gut check, gritty win, and this one's on Jamal Murray's hands, man. I can't see him going with another dud of a game. He did finish with 18 points in game 2, but a large part of that was a late quarter flurry. I mean, he had 10 points as that thing went deep into the fourth. He's got to be better. He's got to knock down shots. I thought he got good looks in game 2. He's just got to knock them down, and I also think they've got to free him up a little bit and get Jimmy Butler off of him if that is the same matchup that Spoelstra chooses to go with in game 3. Also, Denver shooting against the Heat zone. We'll see how that does. The Heat did a good job in game 2, especially late in that game, really flustering that Denver offense when they put the zone on them. So I want to see how they counter that, but I think Denver is able to get the job done tonight, man. Salute to everybody in the chat. Once again, hit that thumbs up button for you boys. The NBA Report, Episode 5, CP and Alex on the ones and twos. If you guys want to call us up, man, 657-383-1509 is the number to call. Matinee edition, lunchtime edition, man. If you guys are at work, if you guys are on your lunch break, tap into the NBA Report, man. Work can wait. We're talking hoops over here, man. Salute to everybody on the KFTV side. 1,000 Eyes 85. Salute Des Z, Aggravated Man, Dr. Roy Bramrell, D Roy. What's going on? Marco checking in. He says, "Go Jokic, go Serbia." Knicks Prime, salute. We are over here on the NBA Report. If you guys are watching on KFTV, hit that link at the top of the chat and come over to the NBA Report and subscribe to the channel. Hit that thumbs up button for you boys. Al, so much of this finals for so long has been about, will these teams draw? Ratings. It's Jokic's sell. Boom, boom, boom. So the numbers are in so far for Game 1 and Game 2, and it's pretty good. With 2 games in the books, this is according to SB Nation, with 2 games in the books, this year's NBA Finals are pulling a mammoth numbers. Game 1 averaged 11.5 million viewers, which grew in Game 2, 11.9. Game 2, a great game. Obviously, people really care about the series. And these numbers, this was the author's words about people caring. But they said the audience numbers peaked to 15 million on Sunday. And a lot of these numbers are rivaling the last year's finals between the Warriors and Celtics, which a lot of people figured a lot of people would tap into. But the whole debate was that because these aren't 2 big market teams, you don't have the mega stars, you don't have Bron, you don't have Steph Curry in this thing, that it was going to be a flop. So far, so good, man. What's your take on it?
I think people just love basketball, man. I think we need to move away from, because some part of the NBA media coverage is just a lot about drama. And I think while that does placate into how this product is promoted, right, how it's sold, people just love the sport in general. I think when you have 2 teams like this, like there's still good storylines for these teams. Both underrated teams, both coming from different paths. Look, Miami, as we talked about earlier, was a team that wasn't giving its all and then somehow has this magical run, A-seed run, right? The last time we saw an A-seed team was our beloved New York Knicks in the NBA Finals. Now we get it again with the Miami Heat.
Yeah.
Now you also have the Denver Nuggets, Nikola Jokic. You know, you had a lot. Was he going to be a 3-time MVP this year, right? Between him and Embiid, the conversation. So people want to see, all right, you hear about Embiid, Jokic, what's the difference? Who is this guy? Why is everyone talking about him? Because, you know, I talk to friends who don't really watch the NBA like you or I do, and they're like, yo, Jokic is crazy. Like, I'm like, yo, if you tune into the NBA, like if you watch, this is what he does, man. If you have League Pass, you tune into a random Nuggets game.
Yeah,
this is what he does. This is what Murray does. So I think if you just love basketball, people are seeing like, yo, these are really good players that we're watching right now, really good teams. And I think it's easy to just have a lot of attention towards it. And let's not forget 2020, the year that it was at its lowest, right, for ratings and viewerships.
Yeah.
These 2 teams, Miami was in the finals that year, so they want to see, can they actually get the job done, right? And Denver was in the Western Conference Finals facing the Lakers, right? And we go back to thinking, could the series have been different if Mason Plumlee guards Anthony Davis for that game-winning shot, right?
Yeah.
That series was highly competitive. So these teams already have some history being this close and being in this dance. And yet here we are, man. So I think there's a lot going on with this, but when you just look at the viewerships, like it's climbing back. And I think when we start thinking about where the league was 2 seasons ago in 2020, like there was a lot going on. You obviously had the murder of George Floyd, civil and social rights just at its all-time high. COVID was at its all-time peak, where people were, you know, the economy was out of whack. People didn't have jobs. So why would people want to tune in when you're worrying about survival and what's going on in your country first? So I think it's starting to, you know, watching sports, not saying the world, just watching sports is just starting to get back into like some sort of normality where there's people getting jobs, so forth. Not saying everything's right, but getting back into some sort of rhythm.
Yeah, true indeed, man. I think it's interesting, you know, just not being the 2 big market teams that, you know, it's drawing interest. I think if you like the game, if you're interested in the game, watching these Nuggets play, I think they are an interesting team. Some people might find him a little dull. A lot of the talking heads out there are saying, well, Jokic and them can't draw. They're a boring team. They're like the Spurs. They are. I think they are. I think there are a lot of similarities in their style of play and their two stars not really being these, rah-rah personalities, but more mild-mannered to themselves, very reserved. They're not trying to be in the spotlight, but they dominate the sport. So it's just very interesting there. But obviously the interest is there from the Denver side. And then from the Miami side, I think looking at their run, speaking from myself personally, I like to see, and I hate giving the Heat credit, but I like to see those in sports, when my teams aren't in it, I like to see the underdogs win. I like to see the underdog
always a great story.
Underdog story, right? I'm a Giants fan. Giants winning the Super Bowl in 2007, the biggest David versus Goliath underdog story in sports. Sorry, I just had to put that Giants thing in there. So I like that. And with the Heat, their run, being the AC to knock off a 1 seed like the Knicks, being the AC to win the most playoff games since the 99 Knicks, coming up 3-0 against the Celtics and then losing 3 straight. You had the Derek White heroics in Game 6, and then the Heat blowing the doors off them in Game 7. I thought that really piqued the interest in this Heat team to say, okay, they managed, they had a good team on the ropes, then managed to come back and beat them handily. Let's see how they do against the Denver Nuggets, against this high-octane offense against Jokic. And so I think those were some of the combinations there that has piqued the interest. And overall, the NBA just doing a great job from a social media marketing aspect. Whether it's the team accounts, whether it's the NBA account, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, everything, then higher or greater.
For sure.
In terms of the exposure.
Absolutely. And I think you got to account for that too, and how people are consuming the NBA as well. So when you look at viewerships, right, and ratings, we have to consider that. Let's go back to like the highest rated game, highest viewed game in NBA history was 1998, Bulls versus Utah Jazz. Obviously, we know the storylines that ran with that. The Last Dance documentary came out. We know it's Michael Jordan. You got Stockton and Malone, right? Scottie Pippen, everybody. We know those two teams were at the peak of their powers, and it drew in to close to 30 million. But around that time, with those storylines, there was no social media that we have today. There's no YouTube to watch highlights. There's no Twitter accounts. There's no Facebook accounts where you could be like, oh, let me just go on, this platform and go see what's trending and just go be part of the moment without having to be part of the moment. Mm-hmm. During those times, to be part of the moment, you had to go watch it because tape delay wasn't going to do it. People were already going to be talking about it. So if you wanted to know what was going to happen and to be up to date in the sports world, you had to watch it. Today, CP, I know people who just don't even watch the game. They throw on YouTube. Yeah. They watch the 9-minute highlights. That's it. If you have YouTube TV, you don't even have to watch all the game. You could be in the fourth quarter. And you could say, catch me up with the highest moments of the game, and it'll do that for you. So the game is it can be digested in such a different way than it was years ago. So when I look at viewerships, it's hard to actually get a rating to seeing how many eyes you have on the whole thing, because you can watch it in so many different ways. Yeah. If you're traveling and you couldn't catch a game, you can either DVR it, watch it later, ESPN or if you just don't feel like going through all of it, literally hop on YouTube. Just go on Twitter. You just type in all the hashtags and you go find this stuff and see what were the moments of the game. And it's like you can see someone talk about, oh, this Jokic 3-point shot. This was crazy. You go back, you go find it, and like, oh, that's the shot. And that's how you can still see the moments, right? Yeah. It's not like where you watch Jordan the last seconds of the game, like pull the crossover and knock down the last shot to win the finals. You didn't have to watch. You don't have to do that anymore. True. You just have to tune in watching it live. So the game is just digested differently. And I think we have to take that into consideration when we see, 11, that's not as much as it was years ago. But I think we have to take that into consideration when looking at all these numbers when it comes to viewerships and ratings.
True indeed, man. And for those of you watching at home, we will be doing our first NBA report post-game live tonight after Game 3 of the NBA Finals between the Heat and the Nuggets. Tap in here on the NBA report for post-game live analysis. caller reactions, all of that good stuff, man. So make sure that you guys tap in the NBA report, man. Salute to everybody in the chat. Hit that thumbs up button for your boys. Salute to everybody on the Knicks Fan TV side. Make sure you guys come through to the NBA report side. The link is in the chat, and tap in with your guys. All right, Al. Frank Vogel met with the Phoenix Suns press media yesterday, was introduced as next head coach of the Phoenix Suns. And, the main soundbite I want to get to is his thoughts on DeAndre Ayton, because with this Phoenix Suns team, having been embarrassed in the playoffs the last 2 years, a lot of pressure. They made the big blockbuster trade for KD, parting with a lot of their young talent, a lot of draft picks. Pressure's on to win now. So the question is, how do they do so? And is their core going to remain their core? And here's what Frank Vogel had to say in regards to DeAndre Ayton. This is courtesy of NBA TV. Salute.
Luke Liddon with 12 Sports. Coach, welcome to the Valley. I'm curious. We touched on rim protectors earlier in this press conference. What do you see? What value do you see DeAndre Ayton bringing to the team, and how do you feel like you can unlock his full potential?
Yeah, well, I think he can be one of the best centers in the league. And I think he's shown that at times throughout his career. I know he showed it when we played him in the playoffs a couple years back, and he shot about 80% from the field, and deterred every drive, every cut, every effort to attack the basket. He can be a big-time deterrent, and there's still areas that he can grow offensively. But I'm intent on really connecting with him, and restoring him to an all-star level player.
All right, that was Frank Vogel, the head coach, the new head coach of the Phoenix Suns. And this is going to be an interesting one for me, Alex, because to me, outside of getting the coach, which they already did, figuring out what direction they're going to go in with DeAndre Ayton, to me, is number two. He just signed the 4-year deal, $133 million with them after he threatened to go to the Pacers. Suns matched the deal to bring him back. He was on the outs with Monty Williams. Don't have to worry about that anymore. They got Monty Williams up out of there. Now he's the highest paid coach in the NBA. Funny how that works. Ayton regressed badly in this postseason. Defense was lackluster. People accusing him of being soft. He missed the closeout game in which they were eliminated with the rib contusion. Didn't go over well with some of the old guard in the NBA. Not known for his defense. The acquisition of a Kevin Durant, now having another ball-dominant player on top of Booker, on top of Chris Paul. Where does that leave DeAndre Ayton in the pecking order? And for me, the question is, can he adjust to being now a true fourth option? Can he impact the game in other ways if he's not getting the ball as much in a pick and roll with a Chris Paul or Booker or Durant? It's going to be less touches. So is he going to impact the game in terms of playing defense, rebounding, and doing the things that they're going to need to do? Because they do need depth, man. What do you think about this?
I think it'll be interesting to see if he can adjust, man, because it was supposed to be him, Booker, and Chris Paul, right? That was like the whole thought. It's like, all right, he's a first overall pick. All right. He was taking over Luka Doncic and Trae Young. You're expecting him to be one of those key cogs on a team that takes you to this level. And he did 2 years ago, right? He was part of that reason that they got to the NBA finals. But when you have two back-to-back, lackluster postseason performances, it's tough to buy in. But sometimes you got to wonder, will the coaching change that and help him? And if you're DeAndre Ayton and you're looking at the construction of this team, a lot of this has to come down to mentality of saying, can he accept being the fourth option? Because look, you're not better than Kevin Durant. Devin Booker has been there longer than you. All-star, top talent offensively. You got to let him do his thing because he's a guy that can completely change the game. Chris Paul, he's your point guard. We already know about the point guard. So that means you're fourth on this team. Can he accept being that rim protector? Because there are at times where he can be good defensively. He can be. It's just, can he be consistent? Can he be efficient in the limited touches that he gets as a center? I still think you give him a shot this season to see where he fits in. But if he can't accept that new role, being a fourth option, being a defensive anchor, getting limited touches, and being efficient with it, I could see him being moved. I can. And look, a lot has changed with the Suns, right? The owner didn't want to give him the extension. He was willing to see what his market value was and then matched it. Pretty odd for a guy who you drafted first overall to say, you know what, I can just let you walk. I don't know too many teams that would do that. Don't know too many teams that would do that. But the owner's gone now. New owner. He made a blockbuster trade for Kevin Durant. I think the ownership has to look at saying, what is DeAndre Ayton's actual value? He's not going to net you back all the assets you just traded for Kevin Durant. Right. So that doesn't make sense just to get rid of him right now unless there really is some sort of fraction in the locker room. But with guys like Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Chris Paul, you would think that Ayton should be able to accept it, because if he gets traded to another team, will he be as close as he is right now to being on a championship, a true contender? So if I'm Ayton, I would try to say, let me try to, hone in my craft, be a better defensive player, learn how to be efficient with the touches I get, and be that guy. But I don't see.
Oh, whoa. I don't know what happened there. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't see.
It's crazy.
I don't see many changes coming for the Phoenix Suns just because they don't have the assets to do so. And I think they're on a limited time frame right now.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly, man. Absolutely agree with you there. So, it's as you said, because they gave up so much for KD, they can't get it all back, even if they were to trade DeAndre Ayton. So, is it trading Ayton? Is it trading CP3, who is owed $31 million but only half guaranteed? Very, very interesting. The question is, I'm looking around the league. I'm like, who would want to trade for Ayton at this point? And who needs him? You have teams like the Warriors and the Clippers in cap hell, right? Miami doesn't need him. Boston, they got robbed. They've already got the Time Lord. I don't see them going for him. Some people want him on the Knicks. A lot of Knicks fans wanted him there. Do Knicks fans want a soft player and a guy that is not a rim protector? I mean, maybe Vogel gets the most out of him, right? He turned Roy Hibbert into Kareem Abdul-Jabbar 10 years ago when they beat the Knicks in 6 games and went to the conference finals. He's had work with AD. Vogel's have a track record. Maybe he gets the most out of him, but as of right now, how marketable is DeAndre Ayton, man? I don't know. I think about, I think Dallas is the most logical area for me. They still have, if you want to call it an attractive young player in a Josh Green, they have a couple draft picks here and there. Maybe you put a veteran in there. You bring Ayton in there. They need him. I think they need a guy like that. You put him with Kyrie. You put him with Luka. See what happens there. The Blazers, Dame is. We're going to talk about Dame after this. Dame is looking for help, or he wants to get up out of there. Does he go there? And I mean, those are the 2 teams that I can really think of, off the rip.
Do you, look, his contract? He just finished the 2022-23 season. He's going to be making $32 million this upcoming season, 34 the following, 35 the year after that. Is he that guy that when you bring him in to take that percentage of the cap that you can rely on a night-to-night basis? Outside of one season, it's pretty hard to say that. It's pretty hard to say, yeah, I can believe in that. The Pacers are about to believe in that. So maybe you do a deal with the Pacers. Maybe they go get someone like a Miles Turner. But if you want, I know Turner's a good shot blocker, but defensively, is that the guy you also want to have on your team? I feel like, I don't know. There's not many teams that would trade for Ayton with that type of contract, unless I could see Dallas, because I think they're desperate and trying to make Luka happy, and you do need a rim protector on that team because Powell ain't it. So, right. Or I won't say necessarily a true rim protector, but a true center, like a 7-footer, right? That's what you need.
Better than what they have right now.
Yeah.
Better than what they have right now. Yeah. So, very, very interesting. And then now on the CP3 side of things, CP3 had an interview with the Pivot. Shout out to the guys at the Pivot, always do great work. And he seems like he's been going through it, man. Listen to this clip that's been going around from CP3 in regards to being ringless. Let's hear from here. This is courtesy of the Pivot. Here's CP3.
It's tough on me, but I think it's probably even harder for the people around me, right? Especially my wife. My wife is the one who has to bear those late nights, those I can't sleep, and my kids. Like, my daughter is the sweetest soul you'll ever meet in your life, right? The sweetest soul ever in your life, but she's at that age now where at school, kids talk crazy to her, right? So she had a little boy, whatever, at school that said some reckless stuff to her, was like, your daddy ain't never gonna win no championship, right? And my baby is she's special. She'll hold it together there, but when she got in the car, she called. And she was upset. And I had to have that conversation with her and talk to her, and tell her, like, baby, some people talk and some people do. But that's part of it. It's tough, man, but can't nobody ever be harder on me than I am on myself, right? And I feel like I've been in every situation there is possible. I was in the playoffs when I played for the Clippers, and game 3 or 4 in Portland, one of them, I go for a steal. My finger gets caught in the guy's jersey, spiral fracture in my hand. I had to get 16 screws put in my hand, right? So I've had injuries and things like that. But the one thing about it, as mad as I am and whatnot, I cannot let that define me, right? I got to get back to work. And I think that's what's happened over my career is when those things happen, I take that night to let it process, and then that next morning, I gotta get back to work. If that's rehab, if that's whatever it is, and then I work as hard as I can to make sure it doesn't happen again.
All right, that was CP3, Al. We'll see. It's crazy, man. The kids, on the next episode, the kids say the darndest thing, man. Imagine your kid going to school and be like, yo, your pops is never winning a ring. That's what social media does to you, man. All these kids, they expose all the jokes and the TikToks, and imagine, you search Google, and that's what you find, man. That's what you find. Is CP3 ever gonna get a ring, Al? What do you think, man?
It is closing, man. It is closing.
The window's
rapidly.
closing, man.
It is closing.
Yeah.
Best shot he had was 2 seasons ago, man.
Yeah.
The thing is that with this year, you just see all the parity in the league, right? So anything can happen next year. They could totally bounce back, have a good run. It was a little tough this season considering it was constructed halfway for Phoenix, but to be honest, I don't see it.
Yeah.
I don't see him getting a ring. I think that you need truly a great season from everybody on that team, and you need Chris Paul to stay healthy. That's been like the thing throughout his entire career. It's like playoffs come along, not healthy, whether it was with the Rockets this season, with the even when didn't he get injured when he was 2 seasons ago in the finals? Didn't he get hurt? I feel like he got hurt.
Maybe I think a hamstring. Maybe I gotta look that up.
I think it was a hamstring. So he's just it's just unlucky that he consistently gets injured when it's the most important time of the season. So it just comes down to health, man. But if you're asking me, I don't think so. Do you see it?
No. I think the window has closed, and I think it's over with. I don't see them. And he did play in the finals. He did play in all the finals games. I don't see them. I think they need too much. I think Phoenix needs too much to compete. They don't have enough depth. They gutted the depth with the KD acquisition. CP3's getting older. He's getting less and less durable. You can always count on a hamstring, a groin, or this or that, as he spoke on in the interview, a hand injury. He's going to be, is there a more winningest bridesmaid in NBA history? I got to look at that because CP3 has had so many good seasons, whether it's with the Clippers. He had, to me, one of the best teams, if not the best team he played on, was that Houston team in 2018, that with him and Harden. That and PJ Washington, that team that lost to the Golden State, they choked. Why did they lose? CP3 caught a hamstring injury in Game 5.
Yep.
Or Game 6, and they lost in 7. That team won 65 games That team went 65-17. That team, I thought, could have beaten LeBron's Cavs and won that. How many 50-win seasons did they have with the Clippers and Doc Rivers?
Yep.
The year after they went to the finals with Phoenix and lost to the Bucks, they just won 64 games last year.
Yes, they did.
And Jalen Brunson choked them out of there. Shout out to our guy Jalen Brunson. He's a Knick. He's with us. He's a killer. And we'll throw a Brunson endorsement in here on NBA Report. Put some respect on his name. He's number 11 for the New York Knicks. He's had a lot of chances, man. I gotta look that up. Like, is there a higher winning percentage in the NBA for a ringless player?
Woof. Would it be Stockton and Malone? Would they be up there?
I gotta be. Yeah, gotta be.
They'd probably have to be up there.
Yeah.
Man, ringless players that won so many games. That's a good one. It's definitely got to be CP3. CP3 has to be up at the top of that list, if not top 10.
Yeah.
Just because the amount of success all those teams had.
Yeah.
That's tough, man.
I mean, those Clipper teams were really, really good.
Lob City was
a problem. But I thought the problem with Lob City was he had to be the point guard and the best player on the team.
Yeah.
Unless you're Steph Curry, it doesn't work out that way.
The only shot creators that they had were him and our guy Jamal Crawford.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was it.
That was it.
You had to rely on Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan for all the dunks. You had JJ Redick, good spot up shooter.
Good role players. Batum, Grant Hill.
Yep.
So CP3's winning percentage is 64.6.
Wow.
And Karl Malone, and we don't know if these are the two, but these are guys that were just, spitballing here. Karl Malone is 64.5. Right there. Pretty much the same.
Yeah, man.
I don't think Barkley is Barkley up there. Let's see. Barkley's all-time winning percentage is courtesy of Stat News. Charles Barkley, all-time winning percentage. I don't think he won that much with the it's these websites with all these ads that come up. That's why you heard like the weird sound just now. Charles 61.3. So I would have to think just off of a spitball that Paul and Malone are at the top.
Yeah.
64% and came up so short. Went to the finals, came up short. Rockets team should have went there. They choked when he got injured. And those Clippers teams, always at the top of the West, favorites, contenders, choked, always found a way to choke. So, yeah, I think it's over with for CP3, man. I think it's over with. Man. So to everybody in the chat, once again, hit that thumbs up button for you boys. The NBA Report, live and direct, man. Join us tonight for a post-game show of Game 3 of the NBA Finals. Now, let's talk Dame Dollars, man. Let's talk Dame Dollars, because in an interview with Showtime Basketball, Dame was asked about the number of teams that he's been linked to and where he might go. Where might Dame Dollars go if he were to be traded? Where would he want to go if he were to be traded, man? So to everybody in the chat, let me just pull this up real quick. Let me just get this. Salute. Give me 1 second here. Al, how you looking on time?
I got about 5-7 more minutes.
Okay, all right, cool. We'll run through this. We'll run through this Dame Dollars thing very fast here. Salute. I'm just pulling up the clip. Give me a second. Where'd this thing go? All right, here is Dame Dollars, and this is courtesy of The Last Stand, Showtime Basketball. Here he is.
Everybody keeps saying Damian Lillard is going to be traded to the Knicks. Damian Lillard's going to be traded to the Heat. Damian Lillard should be traded to the Celtics. Damian Lillard's going to be traded to the Nets. If one of those trades went through, out of those teams, which one will you be like, that's not too bad?
Miami, obviously. Miami is the obvious one, and Bam is my dog. Bam is my dog for real. But I mean, I think Miami the obvious one. Brooklyn is obvious one. Is another obvious one because Mikal Bridges is my dog too. So I mean, and both are capable.
Everybody.
All right, so that was Dame Dallas. Miami, obviously, he says. And Brooklyn. Now, Brooklyn has been the team that's been rumored to be interested. If Miami gets him, it would just be Riley being Riley. Although, I do wonder if they do win the chip, or even based off of their run now, how do they reconsider those things? Because remember with the CBA, second apron, can they afford? Can they? I mean, Dame at $50 million plus Bam plus Jimmy. I mean, who else are they gonna have on their team? They're gonna have to find some more Duncan Robinsons.
If you want to keep Caleb Martin,
yeah,
if you
no,
wanna
well they're
keep
out of there.
Gabe Vincent. I'm just saying you need bench players, man.
Yeah,
you need bench players.
Maybe they feel like they can find some more. They did such a good job, 7 undrafted players. Maybe they say, hey, look, we'll reset the contracts, go to the G League, go find somebody else.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised,
Yeah.
Pat Riley found Anthony Mason and John Starks. So
True indeed. Found John Starks at the grocery store. playing in the CBA.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that would just be such a Riley thing. But look, I mean, the Heat have always been linked to the big names in trades every offseason, whether it's KD, Donovan Mitchell, James Harden. They've always been trying to get that guy. And even when they can't, they find themselves in the NBA Finals. How do you feel about that? If only the Knicks could be that good, right?
Oh, man.
You're flirting with players in the offseason to make your team better. We don't need them. We're in the finals anyway. No problem.
Ugh.
With Brooklyn, obviously with Mikal Bridges being there, they've got a plenty of wings. Cam Johnson, Dorian Finney-Smith. I think Brooklyn would probably make the most sense. I mean, they're just in a position where they've got to look to compete because they got the Rockets owning most of those picks. Even though they got some picks back in the KD trade, I still think Brooklyn will try to compete themselves. When you see what Miami's doing right now, you put the right team together, you just never know what type of run you can go on, especially with Mikal Bridges looking to take another leap. What do you think about that, man?
I think the best team to trade for Dame would probably be Miami, just because I think Tyler Hero, and if you got to move somebody else, I think they have the stuff. I think that's more intriguing than just saying, who are you going to get from Brooklyn? Dinwiddie? Watanabe? Like, who else? Like, are you going to ask for Claxton? Like, if the Nets had to go through it, I feel like they're gunning their team even more to get Dame over there. And you still got to figure out how to build around him. But the only thing I look at is the Nets did get the draft capital in the Kevin Durant trade. So if you're looking for Portland to continue this whole thing, like they did hire Schmitz, right? You don't just go out there hire ESPN's best talent evaluator when it comes to draft and not utilize your draft picks. So maybe Brooklyn would probably be the more likely option because they can get the draft picks that Brooklyn got in the Kevin Durant deal. And yeah, that's probably the direction that they should go. But I don't know, man. Like, if you're Dame and you've also done so well with Portland, you'd think that he also has say where he wants to go and what's his preferred destination. And would you rather try to compete with Mikal Bridges as much as it's impressive what Bridges has done with the Nets, or would you rather go compete with Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo and then go figure it out later?
Yeah, it's true, man. And as you said, Dame being a model citizen so far, 10 years in the game, 10 years with this team, loyal. Maybe they throw him a bone and send him where he needs to go. But it's time, bro. It's time. You can only play the whole I'm staying down, I'm staying loyal, but for so long. They all change teams, man. They all change teams. I mean, if you look at it, I looked at the list of the top 25 players, top 10, top 15. Outside of Steph and Jokic, I mean, everybody's going. Is Embiid and Giannis going to stay with their Sixers and Bucks respectively for most of their career, rest of their career?
Mm-hmm.
I can't see it. Steph will be a Warrior for life. Jokic will be a Nugget for life. I'm not sure. Giannis, we'll see. I think he'll give Adrian Griffin a chance. I think the Bucks will give him a chance. We'll see what happens there. But for Dame, it's like, look, I respected him a lot. He's number one, he's a great player, absolute bucket. I respected him a lot for taking that stance and wanting to stay and build. But each and every interview that he's doing now, it's making it more and more clear. He's leaving that window wide open to get up out of there. They don't have a chance, man. They need so much over there in Portland. They need defense. They were supposed to upgrade their defense. They finished 26 in defense last year. They need offense. They need shooting. Simons is a good player. I like Watford. He's a utility guy. I like some of their guys. But, let's be real. They're a long way. You don't just go from 13th in the West to being an immediate contender within the small window that Dame has left in his prime to truly compete for a championship. He's got to let go of the rope, man. Let go of the rope, go somewhere, and finish out your career where you're actually competing for something. I think that's the most likely thing for Dame, man. I see Brooklyn as a favorite. Well, you never count out Miami. I'm glad he crossed the Knicks off the list. I don't want him on the Knicks. I love Dame. Doesn't make sense on the Knicks. You can't have Brunson and Dame in the backcourt. You're getting cooked defensively.
Well, it doesn't make sense for him to be on the Knicks, but Josh Hart did have to chime in and say, "Dame, I was your boy too." So,
shout out to our guy Josh Hart, man. Always recruiting. Obviously, having come from Portland, always recruiting, man. He's in the Twitter spaces heavy. And Josh Hart says, "Damn, Dame, I thought I was your dog too, man." Yeah, so much for that. But yeah, it just wouldn't make sense here in New York, man. But yeah, man. Great show, Al. Great show, all the mods. Great show, everybody. The NBA report, man. This was a great show. NBA Finals Game 3. Heat, Nuggets, who do you got? Join us for postgame. We're gonna do NBA report postgame with analysis, caller reactions, all that good stuff that we usually do post-game live on the NBA Report. Debuts tonight after Game 3 of the NBA Finals, man. Once again, great show, everybody. Great show, everybody watching on KFTV. Again, hit that link in the KFTV side and come over to the NBA Report. We got to scale up. We got to get the family over here. This is going to be covering the NBA at large with great guests. We're booking a guest for Friday. We're going to talk more off-season trades, free agency. We're getting into that as we creep closer on that. We're going to have our draft series picking back up again. We just had Corey Tulliver on, so we had Chuck D, Rhyme Animal Chuck D was on. A lot of guests that are in the pipeline right now, man, for the next number one show for the fans. By the fans, the NBA Report, man. Al, great show. See you later on, man. Peace.